Loading program, Trekommendations.
Hello and welcome to Trekommendations, a Star Trek podcast that brings on wonderful guests to recommend something special in the world of Star Trek. And if you've listened to last week's episode, that you know Google likes to autocorrect when people are searching for the show. So if you can, leave a like, a comment, share this episode, or leave a review on your podcast app of choice. It will help bump us up the rankings. And also some of those reviews will be read out at the end of the episode in incoming transmissions. Or you can email me directly at trekommendations@gmail.com. But more importantly, this will help people find the show so they can get to know the wonderful guests that come on, like today's guest, that has made a dream come true for many. It would be to be in an episode of Star Trek. Well, this man has been in Section 31, Strange New Worlds, and even Starfleet Academy, as well as a number of other shows that aren't Star Trek. It is, of course, the wonderful David G.S. Jones.
How are you?
Welcome. I'm good, David. How are you? Well, you know I'm not good, but that was off pod chat. But now, within the world of the podcast, I'm amazing. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited. Thanks for having me, and let's have a great show.
I'm sure we will. So, as mentioned, you've been in the film Section 31. You've been in episodes of Strange New Worlds. Most recently, eagle-eyed people will have spotted you in the destroyed atrium in Starfleet Academy. But we still need to calibrate you to find out what kind of Star Trek fan you are.
Calibrating.
The first question I now ask all my guests is, which is your favorite Star Trek show?
I grew up idolizing The Next Generation. That was my first. So I would definitely have to say, The Next Generation. That was the first series that hooked me into Star Trek when I was a little boy.
Yeah. Do you think, so here's a question. It's your favorite. Do you think it's the best one?
Best, it's hard to put into words. I think it's probably the most iconic just because of how many episodes it had, the cast it had, the episodes, the quality of the episodes that came from that series. Many would say Deep Space Nine. Star Trek definitely took a different turn when Deep Space Nine entered with the Jem'Hadar Dominion War. It's tough. I can't lie. If I was to be in any episode of Star Trek outside of what I've been in, I would have loved to have been in Deep Space Nine in some of the Dominion War episodes.
Yeah. Do you know what? That was going to be a question I was going to have, but I thought, if I've already asked his favorite show, there's no point in me saying which show would you want to be in, because I would assume it would be your favorite. But actually, it's not. That's interesting. It was Deep Space Nine that you'd be in, but your favorite TNG. I think I'm right there with you, though. Grew up being introduced kind of through TNG, and a bit the original, and then DS9 and Voyager. To me, always felt like spin-offs of TNG. Even though when I watch Deep Space Nine, there are some episodes where I'm like, this is peak Star Trek. This is like so good. So and having that continuous story arc with the war was so different from the episodic nature of TNG. You got a two-parter, and you're like, whoa, we've got a two-parter. That's impressive.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, it's arguably what made Deep Space Nine really take off, because it set such a darker tone, and some of the best episodes came out of the Dominion War. I personally, if it was up to me, it would have been maybe like Way of the Warrior, Tear of the Prophets. But I'd probably want to be in the Siege of AR 558 just because I've been a Starfleet soldier so many times now.
Yeah, you're just. I love the idea that maybe somewhere we can make it, like we can retcon it, that you're all a descendant of the same person. So all these different shows, you've been the same sort of family line, and that's why, just like Brent Spiner, you look like all your ancestors.
Exactly. Just another Jeffrey Combs, or maybe David's a member of the Q Continuum. He just keeps showing up.
That would be a great twist at the end. Oh, the podcast's gone. Oh no, we're back. David,
what was your favorite episodes?
I mean, well, my favorite episode, I think, is Measure of a Man. I think it's just my favorite episode in general. I mean, I really do like all the kind of court casey episodes. So I like the drumhead as well is another one. I like speeches. I think it's my downfall. I just quite enjoy. I quite enjoy that. Best of both worlds. It's good. I mean, I also really liked when the Borg were scary, and I think especially because I was young
Yeah.
watching it, they were really scary.
Yeah.
And then the more familiar we got with the Borg, the less scary they became. But when they first,
Till first contact.
yeah. So yes, I don't know though. I'm in the process of trying to make a list because I never really. I think it's one of the things where, like, I don't remember a time before Star Trek. If you know what I mean. Like growing
Yeah.
up, it was just always on. My grandparents watched Star Trek. My mum watched Star Trek. I've always been aware of it, and so I had a very casual approach to like watching all the episodes. Like I have seen every episode of Star Trek of all the different series, but I've never really like done the mental exercise of, oh, this was this episode, and this was a good episode, and then this was this episode, and it wasn't a very good. Like I've just absorbed everything. So I
Yeah.
started trying to, in my rewatches, like write down, or just when I casually put on an episode, just to take a little brief note about the episode, and then put it on a big spreadsheet where I'm just ranking like every episode. So I watched all the pilots just to be like, okay, which is the best pilot? Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's there. I think Deep Space Nine's pilot is actually very good. I think
Emissary. It was fantastic.
it really sets up. I watched it thinking this lays the foundation for so many elements that come later in the show, but even more than I realized. It's like I'm like, oh yeah, actually, already here they're talking about this, and already here you're seeing like these relationships or this attitude or this thing. I was just like, okay. Whereas I recently also watched Encounter at Farpoint, which I still think does a very good job of establishing this new enterprise and the new crew and that. But I guess there's less seeds laid for future, episodes or future reveals or things like that. So
It was my favorite. Encounter of Farpoint's always going to be my favorite because it just had something about it. No matter how terrible it looked, but it just had something that made you go, yes, I like it. That's what it did for me is, seeing Q show up for the first time and then seeing Data whistling on the tree with Riker. It just had something about it.
yeah, I think the whole Q thing, when the first time I saw it, I didn't quite understand all of that, like the courtroom and the changing to the different sort of soldiers' uniforms and things, like showing the human history and what they'd done. It was all a bit like too much for me when I was very little. And then it was only like much later going back to it. Well, not even much later, just going back to it when I was a bit older, be like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here and here and here. Okay, that makes sense. And I wonder if that's just soured me a bit on it, because I was like, they're trying to go to Farpoint and sort this thing out, and then this guy is just getting in the way. What's going on here? But then,
But
it
then,
all
then it
all ties
arguably
up.
it introduced obviously one of the greatest characters in the franchise, right?
Yeah, and then again, when you watch the whole thing, you're like, oh, actually, this whole time Q is checking in on them and he is observing, and it is all this, like that test is ongoing
Yeah.
right up until the very end, kind of thing. Like that's so. Yes, I just needed to mature a little. That's all, David. I just, I was too
Same
young.
with me. I think one of the first episodes I ever saw was just before the Best of Both Worlds. Star Trek: The Next Generation just had something about it that just drew me, and even as an 8-year-old boy, it was one of the first Halloween outfits I ever had was the Data costume. It just drew me in.
There you go.
And then who would think so many years
Acting
later I'd
from
be
such
wearing
an
the
early
real
age.
things?
Well, speaking of that, I've got my next question for you, because as someone who's actually had a chance to play with a lot of these things, but it doesn't have to be from the new one, I'm going to ask, have you got a favorite Star Trek prop?
Prop that I own?
No, I was going to say it could be something you've used in a show, or it could just be something you'd love to have had the opportunity to use in the show. Something visual that you think, oh, that's so amazing that they use those.
I would have loved to have seen a Batleth. Again, I was in a Klingon episode under the Cloak of War for Strange New Worlds, fighting Klingons, yet I never got to see a real Klingon when I was there. I would have loved to have just hold a fate Batleth in my hand. Honest opinion, one of the coolest things I think I've ever played with was our Terran Empire badges from Section 31.
Yeah.
Especially, me growing back and watching, all the Mirror Universe episodes, even from the original series. It just actually wearing it and holding it was like full circle. I even have
Yeah.
the Terran Empire shirt right here with the logo. I'm like, it just did something. And I've held quite a few phasers. I won't lie. In Under
Yeah.
the Cloak of War, Section 31, and Starfleet Academy. It's just getting to use these real things, especially the phasers. Like, this is I'm in Star Trek. I'm actually firing a real phaser. How cool is this?
It must be cool to actually get to go back and see, the post production. You're like, oh, I'm actually firing a phaser, and then you get to go and watch it actually fire, and not just, you're going pew pew
Oh,
and
actually,
pretending.
probably the coolest thing I probably uses though is the transporters. Even going back to watching how they did in the '60s for the original series, and then actually getting to do that same process in the three shows I've been in, and then actually getting to see a post production beaming in that really hit my nerdometer.
Yeah, that is cool, actually. You have touched on quite a sore point for me about the Terran Empire badges, because I also have a beautiful Terran Empire badge that I bought to modify a uniform to make it a Mirror Universe uniform. And it's been on my desk for ages. And I notoriously fiddle with things when I'm recording podcasts. So I'll be talking to you, and down here my hands are, playing with something. And I was doing a podcast and I was playing with this badge, and I dropped it and it like hit my chair and bounced off somewhere. I cannot find it.
Oh no!
And it has been, you know, like 2 months. I've pulled out desks, I've pulled out drawers, I've checked under things, I cannot find this, but I do not know where it's gone.
Oh
And
no!
I keep just every now and again I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go and have another big look, and I start moving bits of furniture around, like, has it gone under here? Has it gone under there? Where could it possibly? I cannot find this badge.
It'll probably turn up where you least expected.
Yeah. Yes, and it's making me not even want to make the uniform that I was planning to make, because I'm
Oh.
too like annoyed that I'll have it and then not have the badge to put on it.
Was it a Terran Universe Empire from episode from Section 31, or did it go
No,
back to the previous shows?
it's more the like the one in TNG, the comic. So
Hmm.
it's like the Earth with the sword for it. Because I have an old grey, the First Contact, the Deep Space Nine uniform. So I've got my newer one that fits me well, which I'm keeping. Then I've got an old one that I bought more than 20 years ago, that doesn't fit me quite as well anymore. So I'm thinking if I take the sleeves off of that, I'll make a red sash to kind of elongate it a little bit. And so it's going to be my take on how the Mirror Universe uniforms would have looked in that kind of era when we were using those uniforms in the Prime universe. So that's my
Yeah.
idea. Maybe one day it will happen. Let's see.
Just be fair though, Starfleet, they're not comfortable regardless. Even your uniforms to the real ones, they are not comfortable, especially those Terran ones. My God.
Yeah. They have to vacuum seal you into your uniform. It's not going to be a
Try
fun
taking
day.
it off. Try taking it off when you got a big, thick upper body like mine is, and you have to unzip from like back here just to take it off, just to use the washroom. That was not fun.
But hey, look, if you want to have a rig like that, you've got to. This is the consequence. If you want to keep going to the gym, you're going to have to suffer the consequences of struggling out of these uniforms. What were you
You
going
want
to
to
say?
be in Star Trek, get used to the uncomfortability of
Yeah,
uniforms.
they live in space. It's never going to be comfortable, is it? Everybody
Exactly.
knows that. So, final question for you. Obviously, as of recording this, we've got the seasons of Star Trek that have already been recorded coming out, and then nothing else that we know about. What would be your dream show idea for a future Star Trek show? And if you could put yourself in there in a little role, what role would you want?
Ah, I think a lot of fans would probably agree with me. Obviously, most people would say, just go greenlight Star Trek Legacy. I would be biased and say I'd love to be on a set with Captain Picard or Admiral Picard or Admiral Riker. Um, that would be absolutely fantastic. But I think I wouldn't mind going back to, I think the Lost Era needs to be rediscovered and some adventures. I end up, plus, I won't lie, I've always wanted to wear the monster maroons, and I've got a fake one behind me hanging up on my rack there. I'd love to wear a real monster maroon, especially after what I saw in Equality and Mercy in Strange New Worlds. Sign me up.
Yeah, that's a great shout. Yeah, so just any officer, as long as you get the monster maroon, and that season, that's perfect. Yeah,
And don't dye in the red uniforms, because those red uniforms are pretty well known for red shirts, right?
yeah, that's the problem. When that, I think that's why Starfleet had to go back to different colors, because they realized, oh no, we've put everyone in a red shirt. Now they're all dying, so we've got to separate it
Luckily,
somehow.
David's been in multiple black uniforms and survived all of them. Survived
Yes,
the Starfleet Academy, survived the Terran Empire, and survived the Klingons.
I mean that's pretty good going, because the,
3
the
for
Terrans
3.
and the Klingons, that's not easy to, you
No,
know.
surviving the Klingon Wars, it was pretty brutal.
Well, it's been a fun chat, but we can't just chat. We've got to Trekommend. So we're going into red alert. Actor David Jones, I give you 60 seconds. Please, could you tell us what is your Trekommendation and why you've brought it to the show?
So my recommendation is Star Trek Bridge Commander, the long loved and behold game from so many years ago. Why is it a recommendation? Is one, you get to explore strange new worlds and new civilizations, and you get to command your own starship. Oh, we've always wanted to sit at the in the chair of a starship, and you get to command everything and explore. How could you not want to? How is that not your dream to command your own starship and explore strange new worlds and new civilizations?
Yeah, enough said. Enough said. Yeah, I mean, I struggle with understanding why now we just can't get a great Star Trek game. Like it feels like it's so like would be so simple to give us what we want, and yet like all the new games that come out, they never really like hit that sweet spot. So I don't know what's going on. But you're absolutely right. Who doesn't want to just command the ship?
Exactly.
Did you play this like when it first came out? Was this a game you kind of got early
Oh
on, or
God,
did you
yeah.
come into it much later? Or
No, I think might have got into it a couple years afterwards it came out. I probably didn't have the best PC at the time to play it. I think I owned more and played more Star Trek Armada at the time. Um, but Bridge Commander it just had something different about it, and it drew me in. I loved the story play, I loved the graphics, and you get to command your own ship, right? Who's not? How can you not love that?
so when you, I'm trying to, I honestly don't know if I played this game or not. I definitely played Command. I remember buying uh like a multi pack of Star Trek games at one point that had things like was it like Klingon Academy, Generations, Armada was in there definitely, and I've played different games over the years. I Bridge Command it like scratches something in the back of my brain, but I can't genuinely say oh I've definitely played it or not, which I feel bad about. How does it play? Like if I was to start playing it, like when you say you're on that you command, you're the captain and you command the ship. How does that translate into kind of gameplay?
If I'm not mistaken, it goes back to you start off with a Galaxy class starship, um, and
Oh, it's not
then
bad for your first ship. I mean,
yeah, exactly,
you've done well.
and then you switch over to the Sovereign class, the USS, I think it was Dauntless, um, And then I think you start off, was it start off as commander, then move over to captain and become the captain of the U.S. of the Sovereign class ship, and then just start commanding your own missions from back then as well too. I could have shown the VHS board game that the game that we used to actually have the box like right up there. I still have the box to this day. It was one of my favorites. But yeah, Bridge Commander just hit differently because then you could do online space battles. You could fight
Yeah.
Kardashians, Klingon ships, everything. It just has something different about it.
So were you like a big gamer in general, or it was the Star Trek trappings that kind of brought you into it?
No, like one of my first systems was I think it was Sega Genesis and then Nintendo 64. So a lot of those games would have been early on, like GoldenEye,
Mhm.
Turok, Seas of Evil, Star Fox, Shadows of the Empire, and then the Star Trek games started coming in afterwards. The more older I got into my teenage years and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and the more Star Trek grew on me.
When were you born, David?
Oof, I'm still an '86 baby.
Oh, you're a year older than me. Because you're saying all of these things, and I'm like, these timelines are feeling very similar. Like, I feel like I've had very similar experiences to you. So it's like, okay, curious. All right. Okay. Ooh.
The good times.
Yeah. I won't ask which one. Well, I could just look. Hold on. I'll pull up your IMDb. Is it on there? No. Why
What,
is it not on there?
what's that?
I was looking at your. I've just pulled up your IMDb to see like if your date of birth or anything was on there, but
Should
you
be.
got no. But I know you're 6'1", so that's interesting. Yeah. And you're yeah. There's not enough information about you on here. That's not helpful at all.
No, exactly. It was just before Christmas in November '86, baby.
Yeah. Okay. So you're currently 39. You're not 40 yet.
Not yet.
Not yet, but it's coming.
Oof. God, it's coming. Getting old.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. No, interesting. Good times. Yeah. So when you was go through the N64 catalog, I was like, yeah. I played a lot of those games growing up. I remember playing a lot of split screen on a small TV,
Yep.
like tiny little corners of the screen that you could look at. And
That'll be
now you
built.
think about these massive screens, and it's like only online multiplayer, so you can see everything.
And that's where it's missed. I think where the magic's gone is that you had the social, because you had to have somebody there play multiplayer. You had the social interaction that, those were your Friday, Saturday nights with your friends at school,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I
It's,
find with my son, it really hard to find games that we can play together because
mm,
I find a game and I'm like, oh, like, and games that would absolutely lend themselves to being multiplayer games. I'm like, oh, well, surely this is like a multiplayer adventure. And I read and it's like, yeah, and join with up to 3 of your friends online to play this game. And I'm like, I don't want to join with my friends online. I want to join with my son on the sofa. Like,
yeah.
why do we need to be online? Just let us.
And that, exactly, and I
Oh,
think that's why the push for these older consoles for the emulators has become so popular. We want that again, right?
yeah. Would you go back to Bridge Command if you could get it? I'm pretty sure you can get it online.
Probably.
Oh,
I don't really. I only have now. It's just the cloud Game Pass,
right.
which I can I play on my tablets or computer devices when I'm on sets or stuff like that. But yeah, it's I wouldn't mind. I think I've got some of the old Star Trek games up there from my old Xbox 360. Yeah. Oh God, yeah, I missed those. Those are the best of times.
Yeah. I just I recently re-downloaded Star Trek Online and I did what I always do. I kind of did one day of playing it and then I'm like, I do not have time for this. I cannot dedicate time to play this game. And I think and that is just such a massive game that it's not I don't think it's a great dip in and out game.
Yeah.
But if there is something that you can just be like, I'm just dipping in, playing a little bit, having a real good time, and then get on with my life or other things I need to do. Um, and I just I don't know. I'm on this hunt for like the perfect Star Trek game, and it just doesn't exist that I'm
Mm,
aware of. Like, and I think because new modern games have ruined older games. Do you know what I mean? You go back to the older
yeah.
games and you're like, yeah, it's fun, but it's it feels dated and slow, and the graphics aren't great, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, there's this massive, we've talked about how big the Star Trek universe is, right? All these different areas you can explore and this and that, and we talk about it with the shows, but I kind of feel like, well, you've got that with the games as well. Like, couldn't we just pick an era and be like, let's make a game in this era, and then you've got all these other video games where you can look at them and be like, oh, they did this really well. Like, ship combat was amazing in this game, but that's kind of all it was.
Yeah.
So we'll take that ship combat and put it in our game, but we'll take the exploring the planets element from this game, and we'll take and like combine all those things together, and then be like, here you go. Here's a complete game where you can go down on the planet and do stuff. You can go into space and do stuff. You're in command of a ship. You can make decisions. Decisions matter, so you'll have decision trees and alternate endings depending on what you. Oh, that's what I want. Basically, I basically want Mass Effect, but Star Trek is probably what I want.
That's why a lot like Battlefront from Star Wars, because you could do both, right? Or any of the Star Wars games. I think they do that a lot better. But it's time for some good Star Trek games again. It's been a while.
Yeah, and I would like in a like in an ideal episode of Star Trek that it isn't just you've got to beam down to a planet and fight your way through a horde of people to get to, but like have to solve science problems and engineering problems and things like that will enable you to, and yes, at time and again there will be conflict and you're going to need your security officers there, but you can also do things, you can be diplomatic or you can be explorers and find solutions in other ways. And I realize I'm asking a lot.
They did it with Knights of the Old Republic for Star Wars. I'm sure they could do something like that for Star Trek.
Man, that would be the dream. That's again talking to my era. Knights of the Old Republic was, yeah,
they were great games.
It's not fair that they got that and we never got the Star Trek version of that, I guess. Because that's a similar thing, right? You're getting your companions, you're forming those relationships, you're making decisions, you're choosing who to bring with you, and depending on who you bring with you, it's gonna make things easier or more difficult. I feel like that would be, like it would be great if assembling your landing party really meant something.
Yeah.
Because it's like you can bring 4 people with you. Who are you bringing? And then you get to a situation where you'll be like, why didn't we bring this officer? Because he would have been the right person here, and now because he's not here, we've got to, find a backdoor into this issue. I don't know.
Exactly. And those choices change the story as well too, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Did you complete Bridge Commander to your knowledge?
Probably, I would think. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I think it was easy enough at the time you could beat it, and then you just keep going back to playing the online space battle stuff, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you totally.
Are you given a character then, or do you create your own character?
It was a character. Yeah, it was a character bestowed on you through the story. You started off as the commander, and then you took over the captaincy and basically stayed as the captain for the whole duration.
When you do the online bit, was it the when you say once you finish the story and you're just going in to do the battles, are you still locked into always the same ship, or do you get the opportunity to try out other ships and things like that?
Yeah, you could be a Romulan warbird, you could be a Cardassian Galore ship, you could be, I think, the Defiant as well too, the Galaxy class, Sovereign class ships. Yeah, it was very out there. The endless possibilities.
Do you have a favorite ship?
Can't remember if the Constitution ships were there. I believe the Ambassador were there. The Nebula ships were there. Yeah, I'd probably say Galaxy because that was always the ships I grew up on. Right.
You're a real TNG head, aren't you? Like that is.
But then I do have a soft spot for the Sovereign. So again, that was the first ever Star Trek movie I ever saw in theaters. Was First Contact. So
yeah,
that was a beautiful ship.
It's interesting. It's very, very interesting. These answers. I'm also curious by the fact that you've been in 3 different iterations of Star Trek. You've always played a human. I would have thought because you're a big guy, that would lend to you immediately being taken to be like a big alien, right? Like, let's make him a Klingon. He'll be a big, imposing Klingon.
Almost
was.
Really? Almost. Actually, I said this in previous shows as well too. I was never supposed to be originally a Starfleet soldier in Under the Cloak of War. I was actually supposed to play an Orion in the Rigel 7 episode.
Right.
But again, those were like winter days in 2022, and it would have been cold to be that, topless back then, especially. It just I couldn't get the time off at the time because I was working another full-time job in telecommunications, so I couldn't get the time off, so the scheduling didn't work. And then they actually wanted me to do the tomorrow episode in downtown Toronto when Kirk and Lon go down to.
Yeah. Go down to
But
Earth. Yeah.
that was like some of the coldest days of winter that we've had in many years. So that was definitely no thank you. Plus, you're not wearing a
So they weren't acting, because I remember in that episode they're like saying about how cold it is.
It was. That was some of the coldest. That was some of the coldest days of the winter that we've had for quite a few years, and that was real.
Right. So I just thought they were good actors, but it turns out they were just
good actors and that.
Cold.
Exactly. And then it just happened to behold. I remember seeing on Twitter at the time that Jonathan Frakes was in Toronto, because you'd think he posted something on his Twitter page saying that, oh, look, I'm in Toronto. And we were all like, oh, geez, he's going to do Star Trek. And then I was really, really hoping I was going to be in that episode. But that was the not Subspace Rhapsody, the Lower Decks episode before. I was like, these old scientists. I'm like, oh no, really? I wanted to be directed by Jonathan Frakes, but it ended up being the Under the Cloak of War episode, and I can't really complain.
No. Have you been directed by him in the end?
No, sadly, and he was there for Academy.
I was going to say he did Academy, didn't he? But so you were only in the finale of Academy, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, David's a little bit too big for their
you
cautions.
weren't one of the students.
Not with these gray hairs and not with this 44-inch chest. Definitely not.
Well, I mean, chest, I mean, Caleb, they don't mind having people with big arms and big chest if they're gonna use him. So you could have.
They had to put me in his costume because the other ones wouldn't fit properly.
There you go. Did you meet him?
No, I did off camera. But I was more nerding over Paul Giamatti.
Exchange like gym routines or something.
I was more nerding over Paul Giamatti. I had the same thing when I was doing Under the Cloak of War, because there was Clint Howard. Anybody knew that Clint Howard was going to be in Strange New Worlds, and there he is walking. I'm like, no, really? I just started nerding out really badly, and I'm like, yeah, I'm starstruck.
Yeah,
it's Clint Howard. He's a Star Trek icon.
It's interesting that, because obviously you've done, I mean, if people pull up your IMDb, they'll see that you've been in numerous. Sorry, my phone will not stop buzzing. You've been in numerous other, projects and shows and different things, and I recognize quite a few of them. Being like, oh, I didn't know he'd been in an episode of that and this. But I don't know. Obviously you can be an actor who ends up in Star Trek, does a few roles in Star Trek, and then you're like, oh, okay, I'm a bit of a Star Trek guy now because I've been there. But now you're referencing, the VHS video game that came out in this time, and so clearly, you're such a fan first that it is the,
I still have these.
Data and Picard. Which hold on, hold that up again. There is Picard in the season 1 and season 2 uniform.
Yep.
Wow, there you go.
Nope, I've still collected these all these years. I still have that phaser somewhere. My God. Oh. Yeah, I still even have the original phaser that I took in that photo in 1996.
Really? Yeah, I moved away like for a long period of time. Like, I left the country for 10 years. Came back and all of my stuff had been a lot of my stuff had been moved into the garage by my brother, and then it flooded, and then I lost a lot of stuff, and I think other stuff maybe was sold off. And then I grabbed this the other day. I went to my mum's and I was like, oh, I need to grab the the original communicator. And I said, I just need to borrow it as a prop for these little silly little skits I do. And she's like, yeah, just don't forget to bring it back. And then I said to my, and Mum, I don't know if you're listening to this, because I don't know if you listen to the podcast or not. But as we were driving home, I said to my wife, I'm pretty sure this was mine, like originally. She's got a few things on her kind of little Star Trek, display that I'm like, I have a feeling that was mine. And then you kind of took it when I left the country and have just decided it's all yours now. And then there are other things, like I had a Geordie LaForge action figure. Where's that? Where is that? I have no idea where that is, because she doesn't have it and I don't have
Yeah.
it. It's probably with the different Star Wars ones I had as well that I also don't know where they are. I don't know where any of that stuff is. My childhood is gone, I tell you. It's
Well,
disappeared completely. But yeah.
you gotta
But
savor the moments, right?
But this is also, I do think, like you're saying, you've got like the phaser, and I guess phasers are still around. But that's a little bit one of my, do I say it? Yeah, it's a little bit one of my thoughts about like the 32nd century Star Trek and all of that. Is it feels like, because everything is less tactile, there are less kind of little props for us to get, because oh, another thing I've got in here. Can't find it. Like, the classic.
Oh, the old Trek. Yep, I used to have one of those. Yep.
Yeah. And so I'm like, oh, it's not making a noise anymore. I must have turned off. Okay. And I'm just like, that's cool, getting to play. But now it's all kind of holographs and holograms, and it comes from the com badge. And I'm like, oh, so there's nothing for us to have and hold and play with and pretend to be
Toys.
scanning and that. And I just feel like that's kind of a missed opportunity, and also a missed revenue stream, if we're being completely
Merchandise,
honest.
right? Yeah.
But anyway, just
trust me, it's getting to hold the props for the first time. It tears you up. Like some of these props I had as a kid. Now I'm literally playing with the real things in my hands. I won't lie. When I walked into the set for Strange New Worlds, I cried. Tears of happiness. Unfortunately at the time I lost my grandma during COVID, and she made that data outfit for me, and she never got to see me put on the real Starfleet uniform at the time. It really made me emotional at that time. Because you're there, you're in the wardrobe department. You can see the gold uniforms hanging up, the blue uniforms hanging up, the white medical ones, and you're really there. It hit such an emotional thing for me, and I'm not an emotional guy at all, but it made me cry. I'm like, I made it. I'm here. This boy has gone for a full circle now.
What was this the dream gig? Like when you first started acting, when you were like getting roles on shows, was it like, and one day maybe I'll get to be on Star Trek?
It was actually my second one. So I did as an extra. I did an extra for Gotham Knights,
Yes.
the CW show, just before then, and even then getting a part saying, "Oh, look, I'm in the Batman uniforms." There's a cop car that says Gotham City on it. I'm like, this is cool. This is really cool. And then Star Trek ended up being my second one. How many people can say that your second job is working on Star Trek, and you're wearing a patch that says USS Enterprise on your jacket? It's like, no matter how what's the word, how wrong that was for canon, I can always say that badge says USS Enterprise, and I was a crew member.
Yeah. You're like, who cares about the canon? If it looks good, if it hits a personal note for me, then I can dismiss canon. I mean, I'm not. I definitely think it's acceptable to modernize things and modernize visuals. Like, I don't have an issue with that. Like, let's do that. And I think generally Strange New Worlds does a really good job of taking something familiar and just polishing it up and being like, yep, this looked great in the 60s, but it wouldn't fly today, so we've just taken it and we've modernized it. And I think they do a really good job of that,
Yep.
and far less lens flares than than other examples of it. Uh, Obviously, when you completely disregard canon and like just rewrite history, sometimes that can be a bit frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I understand, particularly with, I'm not a like, oh, but it should all be these kind of buttons and that should be here and that desk's in the wrong place. Because I'm like, well, you know, that's all fine. Let's try our best. But you're right, like on that, with that, I'm just curious then, because you started doing these in 2023 was when was like the first thing I have
2022.
showing up in your on your IMDb as like release dates.
2022 though, because of the strikes, right? So everything was
Right.
pushed back.
Yeah. Filming, because this is where I was going with this, is obviously when I look up IMDb, it only puts things out by release date order.
Mm-hmm.
But there's obviously post production, and there's
The strikes.
and there's strikes. There's also, if you're filming, episode 10 of a series, and they're filming it obviously all together, you're filming episode 10. Whereas if you're filming, episode 1 of a series, and they still got to finish getting up to episode 10, like depending on when you film, when something's going to be released, when it's coming out. I
Mm-hmm.
suppose even like what platform it's coming out on, who's producing it, like that's all going to change.
Yep.
So Strange New Worlds was the second thing you filmed.
Yep.
Did anything else come out before that came out? Had you done other jobs that they would have released before that actually came out? Is my question.
A couple of Canadian series. A couple of Canadian series did. I'm trying to think. I did The Boys just right after season 4 of The Boys, just right after Strange New Worlds. Um,
3 episodes of The Boys, apparently. Is that
yeah, quite a
correct?
few. Yeah, 3 episodes of season 4.
Which
Um,
obviously has I was about to say obviously has a Star Trek link in, and then I quickly caught myself as well, actually has multiple Star Trek links because um yeah, Boimler's in there,
yep,
McCoy's in there,
yep.
Scotty's in there. Like you've had
Oh, it was special.
interesting,
Oh,
interesting,
it was fun.
interesting.
Jack
Yeah,
Quaid is a very nice person. We were doing one of the episodes, and Jack Quaid was very nice with everyone. So I always have good things to say about him. And those were cold, wet days too.
yeah. So would he have been, when you saw him, when you met him, would that have been pre Lower Decks?
Yeah, I think it would have been. It would have been pre lower. Yeah, I think it would have been pre lower decks. Trying
So
to think here.
I think that's a shame, because I think if Lower Decks had come out previous to that, and you then filmed this, and you'd already done an episode of Strange New Worlds, and he's in Lower Decks, and you'd have made this amazing like Star
Connection.
Trek connection there, and been like,
Yeah.
oh, and then we could have had the animated version of actor David Jones in an episode of Lower Decks, just walking around in the background. Then we go, there he is again. This guy keeps showing up, keeps
Exactly.
surviving.
Yeah, exactly. And some say that was one of the best episodes of Strange New Worlds so far, right?
There you go. There you go. You've got that. There's a little feather in your cap for you.
Exactly. It was fun. It's worked. I think I'm trying to think as well too. I know a couple of Canadian series came out. I think it was the Adam Sandler. You Are Not So Invited to My Bat Mitzvah that came out a little bit
Yep.
before Strange New Worlds as well too.
Yeah, I have a 2023 release date on that one as well.
Yeah, I had fun with Adam Sandler on set. It was fun. He's
I mean,
a lot of the humor kept going back to Happy Gilmore.
yeah, which now I guess has a Star Trek connection in that uh, Happy Gilmore 2 came out. Becky Lynch was
Yep.
in Happy Gilmore 2 and was in Starfleet Academy
Yep.
a little bit for a
Exactly.
few seconds. But she will be also in season 2. I saw some pictures that she's in season 2. So, are you in season 2 of Starfleet Academy at all?
No, no. Unfortunately, David Jones does not fit their uniforms. David's too large, and yeah, David was sadly not asked to go back.
Oh, poor David.
Happens when you have 44-inch chests, I guess. Yeah, they kind of want to keep you low. They don't
Yeah.
want to alter the uniforms too much.
No. Because then the next thing they have to do is give you a line, and then it starts getting very complicated, doesn't it? And then you become a mainstay. But you'll become like an O'Brien that will be like, oh, we just saw him pop up here, 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 and then spin-off series, and you're a main character.
Well, we did have lines in Starfleet Academy, but it was all a group thing when we beam into and capture Noose Braca. So technically, we did have lines, but it
Yeah,
was a group. It was a group thing when we all beamed in and capture all of his henchmen. But it was cool. Getting to
yeah.
put on a Starfleet uniform is always going to be an honor because you never know if you'll ever go back again.
Well, no, or if they ever make any Star Trek again at this point. So that's yeah.
I think they will. Honestly, I think they will. I think Star Trek probably does need some shelf time. Some say some most. I think most would agree to like Kurtzman's been doing it for 10 years now. It's time for some fresh pair of eyes to do the franchise. Um, but I wouldn't be shocked. We'll probably see Star Trek again. It probably will be a movie. Who knows? I
Yeah.
honestly I would like to see a theatrical Star Trek movie. It's been a long time since we've had Star Trek Beyond. That was the last movie. I think Star Trek deserves to be on the big screen again. Some of the best content came from all those movies.
Yeah, I was thinking about it as well. Obviously, with Academy being cancelled, and then this like the kind of the discourse around that, and people not giving it a chance, or this and that. And then I was just thinking about the sheer quantity of, because I was like, well, this isn't the first time that Star Trek has gone quiet, because obviously you had the quite a gap between Voyager and Enterprise, and then a huge gap between Enterprise and anything new. Um, and then I was kind of thinking, wow, you like 5 seasons of Discovery and Strange New Worlds and Prodigy, and now 2 seasons of Academy. But it's like there's actually a massive amount of content that has been made under this Kurtzman era track.
In Section 31.
And how did I forget that one? And the cinema masterpiece of Section 31 as well, featuring the actor David Jones, and
So
some
a
other
lot,
people.
a lot. I will give credit though. Michelle Yeoh was very, very, very nice on set. It was only
Yes.
me, another an extra, and her, and she was very welcoming, very chatty. My little sister got to meet her off camera.
Nice.
It was she far exceeded my expectations. She was a really very short lady, but very, very. She was a very
Well,
sweet lady,
you're
and those
6'1".
out
Everyone's short, so let's.
and those Terran outfits looked pretty badass. I
Yeah,
won't lie. I almost wanted to walk off with that Terran Empire's
just
badge of
run,
mine.
just run. See if they
Please,
catch
yeah,
you.
but then don't get blacklisted on Star Trek. Not
No,
all
no, because
of
that
all
would
the
have been
production.
that would have been the end for you. But yeah,
Exactly.
I just think that there has been. You're right. There's been quite a lot of time with this, and then maybe it's time that we just get a fresh take on it's because the trouble is when someone is helming that franchise, no one else can.
Yeah.
And so, it's like you can't play in the Star Trek sandbox because this other person's locks it up and they've got control. And
Mm,
so I think about some, we get some incredible TV shows and things come out, and you're like, oh, imagine if the people behind this show were given the keys to the Enterprise. Like, what would they produce? Who knows? But it's
yeah.
just you don't get to see it. And you could say exactly the same thing with any massive IP. You could be
Yeah.
like, oh well, imagine what these people would do with Marvel. Imagine what these people would do with Star Wars. Imagine what so it's just when it's under one branch, they get to make all the decisions. And I would be curious to see what someone else would do. And I'm
Yeah.
not even saying it would be better. It could be better, could be worse. I don't know. But
Yeah.
maybe it's the
Exactly.
time. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think Star Trek could use the time. Like I said, it's been a long time since we've had a good Star Trek movie, and I think Star Trek definitely deserves to be on the big screen again. It's whatever way direction they go. I'd like to see a Strange New Worlds movie. To be honest with you, I think the crew have earned it, and I'd
Hmm.
love to. Maybe they could be the next Kirk era of movies or Picard era of movies where they get multiple ones. Right? Who knows?
Yeah. Or so here's my just I've like when I say this is a hot take, this is this second take. I've come up with this now, but why don't we? And some people are going to hate this idea, but I quite like it. Is we wrap up with the final season, then we get a movie that is Pike finding that workaround that means he doesn't, get the future that he's kind of meant to get, even though it felt like that was locked in, right? But here we find the solution. We find a way that he finds a way out of that, and then the universe continues as it would. But it's similar to the kind of Kelvin destruction that just spins the universe off slightly to allow for you to tell new stories and not be worried about breaking canon and upsetting that. And then you can jump ahead to the 24th century or the 25th century and be like, yep, things ran pretty much the same, but maybe they were just slightly different. And so you're free to do whatever you want. We get new shows, but it's without being tied to what's canon and what's not canon and this and that, and we can just we can go from there. That's what I would like. That's my idea now. So Paramount, if you're listening, actor David Jones is available for any of your new shows, but I wouldn't mind maybe just a little writing credit on that bit. That's all I need.
Or walk onto the sets and get to
have a little look around, play with the phasers.
Exactly.
If they could do the transporter thing just for me, like they'd be like, well, we're not actually going to put that in the show. I know, just so I can have my own little GIF and use it and just send it.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. Oh God, yeah. That would be. Trust me, it's one of the coolest things you'd ever do. I absolutely nerded out when we did that in Under the Cloak of War, Section 31, and it never grows old on me.
Yeah, this is where you reveal the big Hollywood secret. Is like, and you know how they do it? No, they actually have a real transporter. They realized it was so much better. It was just quicker and easier to just build a transporter and then they use it. But
exactly.
But only Hollywood have the keys. Oh no, what a shame.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, thank you very much, David. We're just going to jump into incoming transmissions.
Incoming transmission.
So this is where I usually find messages or emails or things like that. And I'll be honest with you, so much of it at the moment is just comments on anything I've put out about Academy or stuff like that. So I'm just skipping all of that. And I thought I would read this interesting email that came through today because there's some logic in there, but also it doesn't quite make sense. So this is probably linking back to last week and us talking about the fact that people can't find this show. So when you write Trekommendations, even me, like if I want to send someone the link to Spotify, I quite often would just on Google write Trekommendations Spotify. Yeah. And Google will tell me, we've searched recommendations for Spotify. And then it's like, or would you prefer we search? And I'm like, no, I searched the word I put in. But it autocorrects. It assumes you're making a mistake. So clearly this show is not visible enough to people yet. But Catherine Wallace has emailed to say, hi there. With 23 episodes, Trekommendations, a Star Trek podcast, already has what most podcasters spend years trying to build. Well, this is episode 31, so this email that came in today is discounting a number of episodes, which has worried me a bit. The problem is YouTube has no idea. Over 1 billion people to listen to podcasts on YouTube every month, and 70% of what people watch is driven by the algorithm. When your channel is optimized, YouTube matches your episodes to people already searching for exactly what you cover, turning your back catalog into 24/7 discovery engine with no spend required. Most podcasters with your library have everything they need. They just need YouTube to surface it. A Star Trek podcast, 15 minutes. Catherine Wallace. Doesn't go anywhere. I assumed this was all leading to we want to help you, optimize your platform. We want to help you do this. It just ends. There's no contact us to help grow your platform or any, because I get quite a lot of those where people are saying, we could do this for you. And I just ignore them. And I'm like, no, let me suffer a bit. But yeah. So Catherine, thanks, I guess. but it doesn't help me. But people might have noticed from the last episode, I have tried to change just the titles a little bit to see if that will catch a bit more attention, because people need to know about Bridge Command, which we spoke very little about, but it's a game. And then we detoured a lot to speak more about stuff you were in. But that's the fun. That's the other thing I have to tell people about this show is the Trekommendation is a part of it, but it's very much a catalyst for the conversation. So, it can spin out to many other things. And obviously, if I've got someone who's been in multiple episodes of Star Trek, we're going to detour. We're going to detour in this conversation. So, David, apart from going on your IMDb and looking up your old shows and going and looking for very specific episodes of different shows to see if they can spot you. Where else can people find you if they want to see what you're up to, what you're doing?
Usually you can find me pretty active on Instagram or Blue Sky. Obviously, Twitter was a thing that kind of dropped off considerably. Thank you to Elon Musk. Um, but yeah, mostly Instagram and Blue Sky. That's usually where I drop most of my stuff on. I believe it's actor Damon86 official on both. And then yeah, what Comic Con am I at today? Oh, what TV show or movie have I just worked on, or
Yeah.
behind the scenes stuff. There's always the joys of working in this field. There's always lots of interesting things to post.
Yeah, and I've seen you pop up on quite a few podcasts as well. Beyond this one, other Star Trek podcasts I've seen you featured on, and I see you quite active in the comment section on some of them as well when it's live streams or commenting on posts and things. So I quite
Yeah,
I think
they're all good.
when you say you're active on social media, I feel like you are actually active beyond just here is the mandatory picture I need to put up sort of thing.
Well, they're all
I
good
see you.
friends. I try
Yeah.
to, because they're all good friends of mine who started me in this realm of being interviewed and dropping in their conversation. So I always go back and try to help them out as much as I can. 'Cause without them, I'd just be another idiot on Instagram posting behind the scenes photos, right? So I wouldn't have connected with so much of the fan base in Star Trek and all the other franchises that I've worked on. So I'd love to help them out grow their channels as well too, because they helped me grow.
Look at that. How touching. How could we end on anything but that touching sentiment from you there? This is why, they need to get you in more Star Trek. They need to give you a few lines so you can deliver some of these emotional, stirring monologues. That's what Star Trek's all about, right? So
Exactly.
that's what we need. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us and sharing some of these insightful takes. I will, of course, be back next week with another guest and another recommendation.
Ending program.